There is something mean and vicious looking about the jagged teeth at the bow of a German U-boat. This attachment almost looks like a ram. But these teeth, which are found above and below a U-boat's hull, were fairly innocuous, and in fact rarely used or needed. These teeth were designed to cut anti-submarine netting. Anti-submarine and anti-torpedo netting grew substantially from 1873 onwards, after the first prolific self-propelled torpedo was introduced. Netting was not just used at ports, but also directly attached to ships. There were many ways nets could be used to protect against U-boats, as well as to destroy them. This included numerous experimentations during World War I. Nets could be dragged by ships. Some fishing vessels were converted for this purpose. Net traps, called indicator nets, were also placed in sections amongst minefields, sometimes with mines directly attached to them.
Wer so verkrampft, der kann mit seinen Arschbacken Nüsse knacken.
Na.
To defend against nets, cutters would be attached to World War I U-boats and some World War II U-boats, but by 1941 they were deemed useless, as U-boats were primarily being used to hunt shipping in the vast Atlantic, impossible to cover with mines or nets. Though nets still remained an important defensive barrier at harbors, where they were almost universally used by all nations, though at times carelessly.
We are not waiting for them outside the harbor.
You mean, Kapitän?
Intelligence has found us a way, Heinz.
Nets could be made of many different materials, but steel rings hung from buoys were most common. A U-boat did not want to take the chance of purposely ramming such a net. Even if the U-boat managed to cut through a section of netting, the conning tower or even propeller could get hung up or entangled. This was why large steel cables called jumping wires ran from the top of the conning tower to the bow and stern of a U-boat. They were there to help keep netting away from the hull and propeller. A submarine's best bet if attacking a harbor was to attempt to find gaps in the netting, designed for ships entering and leaving a harbor, as U-47 did at Scapa Flow in 1939, sinking HMS Royal Oak.
Fire two.
The entire loading of 5 torpedoes, 4 forward and 1 aft, was loosed at the Royal Oak. Preen and his crew waited impatiently. Finally, one explosion was heard, and they saw the Royal Oak shudder with the impact.
But what would happen if a U-boat did have to ram a ship? It would likely risk more damage to itself than an enemy surface vessel. In fact, most merchant vessels jumped at the chance to ram a U-boat whenever possible. U-boats ideally engaged large, slow-moving convoys at range. The more unprotected a target, the better. Deck guns were effective as well, but only used if outgunning a target was certain, such as an unprotected merchant vessel. There were isolated incidents of U-boats ramming ships. U-66 and USS Buckley had a ramming match. Buckley first rammed U-66, and hand-to-hand fighting broke loose, before U-66 would maneuver and ram the Buckley out of desperation. U-66 would lose this match, and Buckley rescued 36 Germans after the U-boat sank.
Irgendwann ist natürlich Schluss. Ist klar. Hält der Druckkörper nicht mehr. Dann wird das Boot vom Wasserdruck zerquetscht.
U-boats mid-war began to have their net cutters removed. They were dead weight and created drag. U-boat crews had a greater fear of running out of diesel over being trapped in nets. Interestingly, the wires were kept because they had another purpose. They were used as radio antenna for when the submarine was surfaced. Much research was put into bypassing anti-submarine nets by safer means. The Italians famously used their human torpedoes. They could navigate around the net, or cut it, then enter a harbor before laying their charges under a ship, then slip away. The British developed the X-Craft, a midget sub, that allowed a frogman to exit the craft and cut the netting to allow the sub to enter a harbor.
See any mermaids, Tom?
Yes, 2, but they wouldn't look at anything under a commander.
Alright, I'm Johnny. Thanks for watching this little brief on U-boat net cutters. I briefly touched on a few big subjects in this one, Anti-submarine and torpedo netting is actually a very large subject, so if you want to add anything, please do so, and we'll see you next time.